Much has been said about the times of the Inquisition. There are myths and truths.
Oggi parleremo di due condannati dall'Inquisizione, San Giuseppe Calasanzio e Galileo Galilei.
In 1592, an Aragonese priest, Giuseppe Calasanz, arrived in Rome. He was very charitable and understood human and Christian problems of the street children. As we would say today, who fill the Roman neighborhoods, including Trastevere, where we are now. At the time, education was considered a privilege meant only for those who could pay for it. For this reason, Saint Joseph Calasanz had to suffer various oppositions.
In questi locali della Chiesa di Santa Dorotea, nel 1597, superando molte difficoltà, egli fondò la prima scuola popolare e gratuita d'Europa.
In order to ensure his continuity of his work, he founded the order of 4 regular clerics of Mother of God of the 5 schools.
Ma trovò l'aiuto del parroco di Santa Dorotea, una chiesa del Trastevere dove ora ci troviamo. Qui fu fondato anche l'Ordine dei Teatini.
Ahora estamos en el Colegio del Nazareno, que también fue fundado por San José de Calasanz.
We can define him as a true forerunner of modern pedagogy because he was capable of appreciating scientific, humanistic and mathematical training. He was also a great admirer of Galileo Galilei, whom he supported when the great scientist had problems with Inquisition.
También, a causa de las intrigas de un ambicioso miembro de su orden, sufrió la oposición del Santo Oficio y cuando tenía 88 años fue depuesto de su cargo de padre general.
His order was condemned to disappear in 1646 because he was forbidden to accept new candidates into his order.
We are now in St. Pantaleon Church. Let's continue talking about history here. Although suffering enormously in seeing his work destroyed, he accepted everything with a spirit of St. Job and died 2 years later, in 1648.
Il suo corpo riposa sotto l'altare maggiore della chiesa di San Pantaleo.
Here he lived and died, where some of his personal items are still kept and preserved.
Alcuni anni dopo, altri papi rimediarono a questa ingiustizia e l'ordine fu ricostituito. Il santo sacerdote fu beatificato nel 1748 e canonizzato nel 1767.
Today, the Piarists continue to direct pious schools in many places of the world.
We are here in the cloister of the convent of Santa Maria sopra Minerva, which was the headquarters of the Inquisition. There's a myth that Galileo, who's considered by some to be the father of modern science, was imprisoned, tortured, and even executed here for confronting the Pope about his scientific discoveries. But it's not true.
Galileo supported the theories of Copernicus, who proposed that the earth revolved around the sun, against Greek cosmology, which believed on the contrary that the earth is at the center of the universe. For some theologians, this was an opinion suspected of a heresy. In fact, they thought that this contradicted some passages in the Bible where it was assumed that the sun revolved around the earth.
Ma già Sant'Agostino e San Tommaso de Aquino avevano sostenuto che la Bibbia trattasse solo di verità religiose e non di questioni scientifiche e che usasse il linguaggio comune, frutto del suo tempo. Nel 1616 il Santo Uffizio dichiarò non dimostrata la soluzione copernicana e fu vietato a Galileo di insegnarla come verità scientifica. Lo fece finché non la pubblicò nel 1632 e proprio per quella disobbedienza subì un processo giudiziario.
This was atrocious for him, but he did not spend even a day in the presence of the Inquisition, nor was he tortured.
Pero la condena limitó su actividad y tuvo que pasar sus últimos años en arresto domiciliario.
He was first confined in the Villa Medici, where we are now, was the property of his friend and protector, the Duke of Tuscany. Today, this building is the Academy of France in Rome.
Pero aquí estuvo solo pocos días. Más tarde volvió a su casa de Arcetri, junto a Florencia, donde estuvo hasta su muerte.
This unfortunate case will then be exploited to accuse the Church of going against the sciences and claiming that faith and reason are irreconcilable.
However, the Church has always maintained the harmony between the faith and science, and there are numerous believing scientists, like Galileo himself.
Las teorías defendidas por Galileo se aceptaron más tarde, y en 1757 se anuló la condena del copernicanismo.
John Paul II established a historical commission on the case of Galileo.
En 1992, tras años de trabajo, el Papa declaró que la mayor parte de los teólogos de este proceso habían errado.
They misinterpreted the Holy Scripture and improperly placed the question of science on the same level of the doctrine of faith.